So here we are, all together again on the final day of September. Yes, a new month is just on the horizon. It will arrive soon. October is on its way. Coming up on today's live stream, have you ever been in trouble with the police? We will take a look at words associated with law and order, and the police in general. Mr. Steve will be here with us to share some of his wit and wisdom, and of course you are more than welcome to get involved on the live chat. You know, the world of English is a fun and exciting place to be. I'm so glad you could join me for another lesson.
Live from Much Wenlock in England on a Sunday afternoon, this is Live English. Dip 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 do deep beep 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 bee a la 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 loo 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 loo. Welcome everyone. Here we go again. Yes, it's Sunday once more and Live English is on the air. Hi everybody, this is Mr. Duncan in England. How are you today? Are you okay? I hope so. Are you happy? Well, are you happy? I really hope so. Here we go. It is the final day of September 2018. A new month is just around the corner. October is knocking at the door. It's saying, let me in, let me in. I want to be your new month. And that will happen tomorrow as October arrives. Of course, October is a very important month for me. I know, yes, it's very self-indulgent. I'm talking about me and also my work here on YouTube. So that's what it's all about, you see. That's why I'm getting so excited about October arriving. So next month I will be celebrating my 12th year on YouTube. Can you believe it? 12 years. So on the final day of October we will be celebrating my 12th anniversary. I can't believe all those years ago when I was still living in China I started making my English lessons on YouTube way back in 2006. Can you believe it? All that time ago. And here we are today still doing the same thing. Now, do you remember in 2013, as one of the many celebrations, one of the many celebrations of my English lessons on YouTube, I did a very special series of lessons called Dunktober. Who remembers Dunktober? And during that period I made a new lesson every day during October. Now I thought it would be fun today to have a look at one example of my series of Dunktober lessons. So instead of October I said Dunktober. So I thought we would start off today by having a look at one of my Dunktober lessons. And here it is right now. Do you remember when I went out and about in the car?
31 days of Dunktober, day 13. Hi everybody and good morning. Welcome to day 13 of 31 days of Dunktober. Today I am doing something a little different because I'm going out on the road. we are driving through the middle of Much Wenlock. This is the main road going into Much Wenlock. But we're not going to Much Wenlock today. Oh no, we're going somewhere a little further. Come on, Grandad, put your foot down. Now here's something I've never done before. I'm making a lesson in the car while the car is moving. Today I'm going to Banbury, and the reason why I'm going there is because I'm going to see Mr. Steve's mum, because she was in hospital earlier in the year, and I'm going today to try and cheer her up, and perhaps also she'll be cheering me up as well because she's lovely. A lot of people ask me, Mr. Duncan, why don't you have a car? Why don't you drive? And, well, there isn't a simple answer. It's just probably because I've never really been interested in cars, to be honest, never. I used to play with cars when I was a kid, but I never really grew fond of cars. I never really got into them in a big way. My passion as a teenager was motorbikes. I loved motorbikes a lot, and I used to ride a motorbike as well. A couple of my friends rode motorbikes. One sadly died, and the other was seriously injured on his. But I continued to ride mine until one day when I had almost an accident. Not quite an accident, but it scared me enough to get rid of my motorbike. After that one terrible incident, I never rode the motorbike again, and I sold it. So these days I like to sit in the car as a passenger. It's much more comfortable. And of course, Mr. Steve is a very good driver. There he is, behind the wheel. It's Mr. Steve. Now don't look at the camera, Mr. Steve, because I don't really want the car to crash into a tree. Thank you very much. There he is, Mr. Steve. He's a fantastic car driver. He's probably the best driver I know. Do you know sometimes when you're in a car and you're with someone and their driving is so terrible that your buttocks clench together? You're actually holding onto the seat with your fingers because you're so afraid that the car might crash at any moment. Well, Mr. Steve is not that type of driver. He's a very good driver. Ooh, we are becoming very creative with these angles, aren't we? There is a phrase in English, to lose your nerve. If you lose your nerve, then you become terrified. You suddenly lose your confidence. You lose your nerve. You can also lose your bottle. It's a great phrase, that. So if you suddenly get scared or you suddenly panic, you can say, I'm sorry, I've lost my bottle. I've lost my nerve. Don't worry, I haven't lost my nerve today. I'm still feeling very confident, and I hope you are too. Do you own a car? Would you like to own a car? Do you know how to drive a car? Would you like to one day drive a car? Some people don't like driving. They hate it. They hate sitting in the traffic jams. They hate waiting in the queues. hellos. Driving a car can be a very stressful thing to do. Just in case you thought I had forgotten about them, here are today's special hellos. A big hello to Kurt, Gushaim, Helen, Irfan, Xavier, Hank, Ayman, Rajashekar, Khalid, Gemma, Adilson, Fenny. Don't forget, tomorrow I will begin saying hello to places. Where are you now? Please let me know. Okay, we're just coming into Banbury now. Our day is about to begin, and this is where I leave you. This is Mr. Duncan in England on day 13 of 31 days of Dunktober, saying enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow bright and early for day 14. This is Mr. Duncan in the car in England saying thank you for watching. And of course, ta-ta for now.
Of course, you don't have to go anywhere because we are not leaving just yet. Do-do-do! Yes, it's Sunday and it's live English. I hope you enjoyed that. That particular video clip you just saw was filmed way back in 2013 during my special celebration of the anniversary of my YouTube channel being created. And we are doing something very similar during this October. There will be some new lessons posted, and of course don't forget there will be a new lesson posted every Wednesday. For those who haven't seen them yet, there is actually a new series of grammar lessons at the moment, and they will be posted every Wednesday, but there will be some new lessons as well coming over the period of October the 1st right through to October the 31st. So lots of new things coming your way, something special as a way of celebrating October and also my 12th anniversary. To be honest with you, I can't believe I've been doing this for so many years. It seems unreal. So all of that to come next month, which starts tomorrow. It's a very unsettled day here. Shall we have a look out the window first of all? So there is the view at the moment outside. Very cloudy, very grey. Fortunately, it is not raining. I hate the rain so much. So it isn't raining, but it's very cloudy and quite windy. Very windy indeed. Can I just say a special hello to my viewers watching in Indonesia? As you may have heard on the news or seen on the news, there was a large earthquake and also a resulting tsunami that hit in Indonesia. So can I say a special hello to all my lovely viewers watching in Indonesia? I hope you are safe where you are. Talking of viewers, well, of course, we have the live chat, don't we? We can't forget about the live chat. So, there it is. The live chat is now on the screen. But, of course, the big question is, who was first on the live chat? Let's go back in time, shall we, and have a look right back to the beginning of the live stream. But who was first? Oh, hello to Olga. Olga was first on the live chat. Well done to you. Congratulations. I suppose I should give you a round of applause. Yes, I hope you enjoyed that. Also, hello to Matrix, who says, hi everyone. Blue Thunder, Pedro is here, Saturino is here, Mardi is here, Chris Kien, also Shwetank. Hello to you. Where are you watching at the moment? I don't recognise your name. Are you new here? Is it your first time on the live stream? Please let me know if it is your first time. Dima is here as well. And we have Blue Thunder, Belarusia and Blue Thunder are here as well. Mavi. Hello to Mavi, who is watching in Turkey at the moment. Also to Yo-Yo Man, who is watching in India. I know that we have many new viewers watching now in India. So a big special hello to everyone watching in India at the moment. Irene is here, also Tran, Maria, hello to Maria. Silvana is here, Mika, hello to Mika as well, watching in Japan. Chris, Francisco, also we have Connell is here. Hello Connell, I haven't seen you for a long time. So it's very good to see you. Hi Mr. Duncan and everybody. I'm not too bad, thank you. I was busy this morning trying to get my phone to work because during the night my phone has had an update, my iPhone. So now I am running the iOS 12 system in my iPhone. So, and one or two things have changed inside the phone because of the application being updated. So I'm just getting used to that. I had a few problems this morning getting my phone to work. Already people are complaining about the new update on Apple. They are saying, why? Why doesn't it work properly? And this always happens. Every time they have an update, every time they change the software, you can always guarantee that there will be some sort of problem. So I have updated it. One thing I have noticed already, there is something different on the phone. And now the phone will tell you how long you've been using social media for. So if you've been on social media, if you've been watching videos on YouTube, the phone will now tell you how long you have been doing it. And also you can get your phone to tell you to stop watching. So if you have been watching things for too long, if you have been watching too many of my English lessons, for example, your phone will now tell you that you've been doing it for too long. So that's an interesting development, I must say. Back to the live chat. Lots of things going on today. We are talking about all sorts of things, including law and order. We are talking about the police because there is a new lesson coming very soon, and I will be covering those particular topics in great detail. So all of that coming in a few days' time. Also, of course, today we are talking about the police. The big question today is, have you ever been in trouble with the police? Have you ever been in trouble with the police? You don't have to give any full details, but if you have had a moment of time where the police have been involved with something you've been doing, maybe something that wasn't serious, maybe something that was very trivial or small. So have you ever been in trouble with the police? So all of that coming later on. We'll be talking about words connected to the police and also law and order as well. All of that coming later on the live stream. But meanwhile, it's me, Mr. Duncan, live on YouTube. Mr. Steve will be here later on. For those wondering where Mr. Steve is, yes, he is somewhere special today. But the big question is, where in the world is Mr. Steve? Mr. Steve will be here in around about 5 minutes' time. Yes, it's live English on a Sunday afternoon. Coming up in a few moments, we have an excerpt from something we did last year. Now, in the garden, there are lots of flowers, lots of plants, and there is one particular flower that grows very well in the garden. In fact, so well, it gets very, very big. So, at the end of the summer season, we have to cut this particular plant down. In a few moments, I will show you what happened last year when we had to cut that particular plant down because it was so big. It took two of us, Mr. Steve and myself. We had to struggle in the garden cutting down that particular plant. Coming up in a moment. But of course, as mentioned last week, I was going to do a mystery idiom last week, and I completely ran out of time. So today, before we go any further, I'm going to put the mystery idiom on the screen right now for those who love to try and guess what the mystery idiom is. So here it is. Here is today's mystery idiom. Do you know what it is? A well-known phrase in English. All you have to do is tell me what that particular phrase is. It is the mystery idiom. Just say what you see. What you see on the screen, just say it. Say it to yourself. Or maybe you can go round to your neighbour and tell them. Or perhaps you could shout it out of the window. Maybe I will hear you. So the mystery idiom is now on your screen. If you think you know the answer, let me know on the live chat because you are more than welcome to do so. Meanwhile, let's have a look at something that happened last year. Mr. Steve and myself were in the garden and we were very busy a year ago. I can't believe that a year has gone by so fast.
Oh, hello, Mr. Steve.
Hello there, Mr. Duncan.
And hello, everyone watching out there in YouTube land. We are out in the garden. It's a beautiful evening. It's a little bit chilly, but we are out here for a special reason because we are going to cut down the dunculus, the big dunculus that is growing at the moment in the garden. So what are we going to do, Mr. Steve?
Well, the full name of the plant is a cardunculus, and of course we bought this particular plant because it's got a mention of your name in it. So cardunculus sounds like Duncan, which is of course your first name.
So I actually spotted this plant in the shop. I said to Mr. Steve, I said, look, Mr. Steve, this plant is called cardunculus and my name is Duncan. So I couldn't resist. I said to Mr. Steve, I said, let's buy one and then we can have a dunculus growing in the garden.
Yes, Mr. Duncan, you wanted to have a plant in the garden that sounded like it was named after you. What an ego.
Of course, I couldn't resist buying it because it's called Cardunculus, and my name is Duncan. Mr. Steve is busy pulling up the sticks that have been holding up the Dunculus for so long. Come on, Mr. Steve, give it a good pull. There it goes. You're very good at this. You can see Mr. Steve is thinking about it. Will he be able to carry out this huge task? Because of course this is a very big plant. Look at the size of it. So what do you think, Mr. Steve? Do you think you'll be able to do it?
Yes, this plant needs chopping down because it dies off in the winter, and therefore if we leave it out it won't look very nice, because you can see the one behind is already dying off. This is what you call a perennial plant, which means that it dies off during the winter months and comes back again in the spring.
So this plant will kind of regenerate itself.
Yes.
So this plant here will die off. So we will cut it away, and then next year a new plant will reappear as if by magic.
It's grown this height in one growing season, and the new baby plants are already present at the base.
That's incredible. Can you see this particular thing here, Mr. Steve? It is called a capitulum, or, as it's more commonly known, a flower head. Careful, Mr. Steve. We wouldn't want that big plant to fall on your head. So Mr. Steve will now put all of the bits of the Dunculus into the wheelie bin. I must admit, this is turning out to be a very busy evening. Job done. And there it is. Already you can see next year's Cardunculus growing. And a year from now, we'll be cutting this one down.
Ah, yes. A year ago, all of that was going on in the garden. It is Sunday, it's a fun day, it's Live English Day. That's what it is, you see. That's what we're doing right now at 25 minutes away from 3 o'clock here in the UK. I don't know what time it is where you are because I'm not there. Later on, we're going to take a look at words to do with law and order, and also to do with the police as well. Also, another little question. What does Mr. Duncan, that's me, and Mr. Steve look like in Russian? Yes, I will show you a little bit later on the names, our names in the Russian language, because I was kind of intrigued to find out what our names look like. So that coming later on. But right now, here he is, live somewhere in the world. But the big question is, where in the world is Mr. Steve? We are about to find out right now. Mr. Steve, I'm just trying to get through to here. I've got my finger in my ear, because that's what they do on the television. Mr. Steve, are you receiving me?
Hello, are you there, Mr. Duncan? Are you there?
Oh, there he is, Mr. Steve.
Ah, Mr. Duncan, hello.
Hello to you.
How are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
And you're there ensconced in the studio.
Ensconced.
Ensconced. And I am live here in a mystery town or country.
I'm just wondering now what we will do. We will first of all ask on the live chat if anyone knows where you are. So there is Mr. Steve. He is somewhere quite famous. He's not in America. He's not in New York. He's somewhere a little closer to home.
How about a few clues, Mr. Duncan?
Well, first of all, we will see first of all if anyone has got it right, because you know some of our viewers are very, very, very smart, and
clever people out there, Mr. Duncan. Clever people.
And I was going to say cleverer than us.
Oh, I'm sure they're cleverer than us.
I'm pretty sure of it.
I think by the law of averages, there will be cleverer people out there than us.
So where does anyone want to guess? No one's guessing at the moment where Mr. Steve is, but he's somewhere very well known, a place where lots of tourists visit.
Lots of tourists visit. A river called the River Avon flows through the centre of this particular town. Let's say we are in England.
Okay.
We are in England because we've blown the budget. We went to Russia the week before, America last week. There's no money left, so I've just driven up the road to a town. I'm actually in England today, and this particular town is 92 miles, or about 170 kilometres northwest of London.
Oh, okay. That's quite a long way from London.
Yes, go up the M40 and come off at junction 15, approximately, and you will come to this particular town, the birthplace of a very famous playwright and poet, probably the preeminent playwright and poet in the entire world.
I
think
think
few clues there. Should have got it by now.
There's some good clues there, and we have some correct answers already.
Oh,
you see, we were right.
Clever people out there.
I think almost too clever.
Yes,
too clever.
Yes, Mr. Duncan. Today I'm in Stratford upon Avon.
Stratford.
Give it its full name because the River Avon flows through the town, through the centre of the town.
Yes.
And it would have been a completely non-famous town if it wasn't for the fact that William Shakespeare, the famous poet and playwright, was born there. In fact, I've got my notes, in 1564, he was born in this very house here that we have on the screen. And as you can see from that, he didn't come from a poor family, because if he was born in a house that big in 1564, he must have come from quite a wealthy house. And in fact, he did. His father was a glove maker, a very successful glove maker and wool merchant of the time. And his mother came from a family of rich landowners and farmers.
So Shakespeare's parents were quite wealthy.
They were quite wealthy, so he had a very good education, which of course must have helped him a lot when it came to writing plays, but he obviously had a natural aptitude for writing plays and recounting the human story, and which he did very successfully. Of course, and we have he wrote 39 plays and 154 sonnets, which is a type of poem. As I said, he was the son of a successful glove maker, But he didn't actually write his plays in Stratford, because he moved to London when he was, I think, in his late teens, early 20s. And it was in London that he wrote all of his plays, or certainly most of his plays. There isn't that much information. You would think that they didn't keep very good records back then, and Shakespeare himself didn't write a diary. So there were a lot about his personal life we don't really know. In fact, there's been lots of programs about it, but a lot of it's basically made up.
Yes.
We don't actually know a lot about his private life. In fact, we don't even really know his exact date of birth. We know when he was christened, but we don't know exactly what his date of birth was, because it was a long time ago, after all.
So
16th century.
way back in the 16th century.
He became, yes, now when he went to London, he became very successful as a playwright, and he made quite a lot of money in his own right. And he teamed up with a group of people, and they built their own theatre in London called the Globe Theatre, which is still there today. Obviously, it's not the same building.
No, because didn't the original Globe burn down?
I think it did burn down. I think you're right. It could well it probably did. I would imagine it did.
It was made completely of wood.
He was also at the time writing his plays, and he was an actor as well himself. So he used to appear in his own plays and other plays in the Globe Theatre. And he was writing at the time when bubonic plague was rife.
Wow.
In England. So that went on for, I think, 1603 to about 1610. There were plagues, these regular plagues, thousands and thousands of people dying. He didn't die from bubonic plague, although he did die at the relatively young age of 53.
But I think for that, but don't you think for
52.
that period, Steve, that period of time, I think mid-50s was actually quite old, wasn't it?
Well, it was. I think the average age then was probably about 36 that you would die.
Yeah,
so he lived quite a good age for the time.
It's worth noting that people in the 16th century, people didn't live that long.
They didn't live very long.
Quite often, also, it was very common for women to die during childbirth.
Exactly.
So,
It was. I think his mother and father had about 8 children. Don't know how many of them survived. But as you can see from this house, his parents had quite a lot of money of their own, because he was a successful businessman and she came from a rich family. Now, the house itself is typical of houses of its time. So it's made of a wooden frame with what we call wattle and daub in between. So the white in between the timber frames that you can see is it's like a type of plaster, which is made from sort of mud and clay and animal dung and straw and all sorts of things mixed together, and you sort of pack it in between the wooden. Well, there was a wooden lattice, which is the wattle, and then the daub is the plaster you put on top. So there was like fine wooden lattice.
It's quite amazing, Steve.
Quite amazing. That's how they used to build houses in those days.
It's amazing. They actually used poop.
Yes, they used animal dung mixed with clay and straw and all sorts of stuff to pack this in. And actually, it was it was a very successful building material, because it's still houses that were built with it all those hundreds of years ago are still standing and have still got the original the plaster work actually in the building. This, of course, has been restored. An interesting fact about this house was that the famous showman Barnum, P.T. Barnum, in 1846 wanted to buy this house, and take it apart and rebuild it in America. And at that time, there was a lot of resurgence in the interest in Shakespeare. And they were horrified at the thought that Shakespeare's birthplace might end up in another country. So they got a committee together and got some money together and actually bought it themselves to prevent it being sent out to America. So it could have ended up there like one of the London bridges did.
So it's almost an early version of activism.
Yes, exactly. Well, they just got together to prevent it being sold abroad.
Yeah.
The house now is, in fact, a museum. So you can go there and it's sort of laid out in the decorations and style of that particular time. So you can wander around and see what life was like for Shakespeare growing up in the 16th century. And you can also, it's a kind of a mecca for people interested in literature. So when I say like a mecca, it's like a pilgrimage. People will go. It's a mecca with inverted commas. So we're not talking about a pilgrimage for Muslim people like the city in Saudi Arabia, but it's a similar. When we say something's a mecca for something, then that means people will go there and celebrate something and worship. In this case, literature and Shakespeare.
Yes, you can also say a place that draws a large crowd.
Yes, for a particular purpose. Something's famous about that place. Like Mecca is obviously the birthplace of Islam and Muhammad, whereas this is the birthplace of literature, of world-class literature.
Certainly modern literature, because you have to also bear in mind that Shakespeare's work had a very big effect on the English we use nowadays.
Yes, and apparently I was reading at the time, there was a lot of criticism. People used to criticise him because he didn't have, although he was quite well educated, apparently he wasn't university educated. So he wasn't regarded as, amongst fellow playwrights and poets at the time,
elitists.
They were, yes, he wasn't regarded as in the top. They were a bit jealous of him because he was writing very good plays,
Yes.
and they probably weren't. They were a bit jealous of him. I mean, imagine if you were a playwright trying to make a name for yourself in the 1600s, and you happened to be born at the same time as William Shakespeare, and that's very unfortunate. Yeah, because if he hadn't have been born at the time, there'd been somebody else around who would have been very famous. But imagine being born, you're a playwright and you want to write plays and you're born at the same time as Shakespeare. You're never going to be famous yourself. It must have been, no wonder they were criticising him.
And also at that time, people were still very suspicious of new things that came along, so that people were quite distrusting. They wouldn't accept things straight away, new ideas, new concepts, new ways of expressing yourself. So way back in the 16th century, things were still developing is in the form of the way human beings think.
When you think nearly 600 years ago, that's an incredibly long period of time.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to think that all that was going on. You can't imagine there was much civilization at the time, but obviously there was.
So there aren't many actual facts about Shakespeare that are very reliable. There are some things that have been, I think, made up over the years, especially when it comes to his love life.
Yes, I think it's all practically made up. He had two daughters. He had two daughters and a wife, Anne Hathaway, who of course I think she was famous in her own right, wasn't she?
Yes. And she had her own cottage.
Exactly. Well, when he came, he didn't actually. I mean, there is the famous theatre, the Royal Shakespeare Theatre in Stratford.
Yes.
But that was nothing to do with Shakespeare. Because he didn't really spend that much time after he left. Apparently, he didn't spend that much time in Stratford. He went back there 3 years before he died, but he never opened a theatre in Shakespeare. That was built in 1930 something, as a celebration of his life. But there wasn't a theatre in Stratford before that, so that had nothing to do with him. So it's quite interesting. You go to the Royal Shakespeare Theatre in Stratford-upon-Avon, and it had nothing to do with him. That was built many centuries later.
Yeah, I think this is a misconception some people have. They think the theatre in Stratford is actually the one he built, but it isn't. It's actually in London.
1932 it was built. Yes, the theatre that he was responsible for forming was with a group of friends was the Globe Theatre in London, but the Royal Shakespeare Theatre had nothing to do with him at all because it wasn't built until 1932.
I remember when we went to Stratford-upon-Avon to meet some students and also a teacher who had
Yes.
come here from South Korea.
We did.
And I remember that particular day. It was absolutely full of people, the whole place. We did actually visit Shakespeare's house, but we didn't go in because there were so many people queuing and waiting to go in.
2.5 million people visit Stratford every year.
Wow.
And just basically tourists coming to learn more about Shakespeare. And it's a beautiful spot because there's a lovely river, a wide river flowing through the centre, so you can go on nice boat trips. You can have a meal on the river. We had a lovely day with those students and the teacher from South Korea. They'd had an awful journey here, and not a particularly nice time. I seem to remember, but we had a nice day, and we've got film to prove it all. And I'm sure that many of your viewers will have watched it.
Yes, I had to take that video off, by the way, because of there was some music on there that came up for copyright infringement.
Well, perhaps you can re-upload it with some of your own music on, Mr. Duncan.
Yes. Actually, you know what? I had almost forgotten all about that we did that, and that was also many years ago, maybe 6 or maybe 7 years ago, Steve. So yeah, you know what? I'm going to do that. So, do you have any more information for us?
I think that's about it, Mr. Duncan. Oh, well, there's 27,000 people live in Stratford-upon-Avon.
Oh, it's quite a small. That's quite a few.
You just normally just shorten it to Stratford. You don't
Yes.
normally put the on Avon. There's lots of towns and cities in England that have on something after it. The name of the town then on.
Yeah. Normally, if the name is the same as another place.
Yeah, so Newcastle upon Tyne.
Yes.
So there's a river Tyne flowing through it.
Because there's
Stratford
more
upon
there's
Avon.
more than one Newcastle and there's more than one Stratford.
That's it. So the one with the river is Stratford upon Avon.
So that's how you can differentiate them to tell them apart.
Have you noticed something that I'm wearing, Mr. Duncan, that doesn't belong to me?
Yes, you are wearing my hat.
I'm wearing your red cap.
Yes, I've noticed.
Which I thought, well, I'm wearing a red shirt. I need something to match it. So
No, it looks-
I grabbed Mr. Duncan's famous baseball cap before I left the house and drove to Stratford. And I thought, I wonder if Mr. Duncan will notice, and will he be angry?
I did notice, and I'm not angry.
Good. Well, do you want me to come back to the studio, Mr. Duncan?
We will see you a little bit later, Steve.
Yes, it'll take me about, I'd say about 30 seconds to drive back from Stratford.
That's pretty fast. We'll see you in a short while.
Bye.
That's Mr. Steve. He will be back in the studio live in a few moments. But seeing that we are talking all about the English language, I thought it would be fun to take a look at an excerpt from one of my full English lessons. And in this particular clip, we are talking all about phrasal verbs.
What exactly is a phrasal verb? Well, first of all, a verb is a word that expresses an action. It is a doing word. It shows an action. Phrasal verbs are formed by 2 or more words, usually consisting of an adverb and a main verb. They can be transitive or intransitive. Good examples of phrasal verbs include run out. You run out of petrol. You've used up all the petrol. The petrol has run out. The car has used up all the petrol. Another good phrasal verb is hang up. To end a telephone conversation is to hang up. You hang up on someone. You hang up on the person you are talking to. Then there is hand in. You hand in your homework. You give the homework to your teacher. Another phrasal verb is mix up. This can be the action of combining or mixing 2 or more things together. Mix up can also mean to mistake one thing for another. Phrasal verbs are used as a way of expressing an action in an informal way. they can often be confusing to those learning English as a second language.
Do. And if we have time, we will take another look at one of my live English lessons. But now here he is. You know what's coming next. It is Sunday afternoon and it's coming up to 3 o'clock here in the UK. I don't know what time it is where you are because I'm not there. Can I say a big hello to TS watching in Indonesia? It's nice to see you here and a big welcome to you. Also, guess who has just arrived in the studio? Here he comes.
Oh, Mr. Duncan. Oh, I had to drive like a maniac to get here today. All the way from Stratford. I've broken every law.
What an entrance. It's Mr. Steve.
Hello. Yes, I've driven like a maniac, Mr. Duncan. Talking about the law, I went faster than any police car could catch up with me on the way back to Much Wenlock.
We are talking about the police today. Some words and expressions to do with the police.
Well, the law.
So all of that coming later on. Mr. Steve, but you're okay now. I love this shirt, by the way.
Well, I wonder if anyone else has noticed. We'll look at the live chat in a minute. Where did I get this from, Mr. Duncan? Do you remember?
I think, if I remember right, didn't you buy it on one of our holidays?
I did. I bought it from Turkey.
Oh, okay then.
Turkey. When we went to Turkey, I went to a market. Well, actually, it was quite a high-class shop.
Who?
In which would have been. Now, let me think. Where would that have been?
Was that in cash?
It could have been cash.
Yes.
Or would it have been
Fethiye.
It could have been Fethiye, or it could have been cash. I can't remember. I think it was cash. But yes, and I think I've worn it once because I bought it. When you're on holiday, you buy shirts and you think, well, that's a nice shirt. Then you get it home and you lose confidence in wearing it.
Yes.
So I lost a bit of confidence. So I haven't worn it. Probably. When did we go to Turkey? How long ago? Many years ago, Mr. Duncan. When did we last go to Turkey? 6-7 years ago?
The last time, you are not going to believe it. Yes, it's about seven years ago since we went to Turkey.
See, this is quite a stylish shirt. Do you notice there on the
sleeve?
On the sleeve. Don't undo it, Mr. Duncan. It doesn't need to be undone.
I want to have a look.
Well, you could do it. There's a black one that side and a different coloured one that side.
This is
the style.
Yes.
I like this shirt. I'm going to start wearing it again. Let's see if I get some good comments about it.
Very, very stylish, I must say.
I feel $1 million.
It goes very well with my red hat.
Yes, that's why I put it on.
So, would you like to have a look at the live chat, Steve?
Yes, I would, Mr. Duncan.
Let's have a look right now. There it is on the screen.
Olga likes my shirt.
Olga loves your shirt.
Thank you very much. So does Pedro.
Oh.
And Ali Veli is from Turkey. This is a Turkish shirt.
Yes, this shirt.
I bought it from Turkey.
So this shirt came all the way from Turkey.
There we go, yes. Mavy's looked up about cash and Fethiye. And Olga said she noticed the shirt right from the beginning. Yes, I'm going to go through my entire wardrobe in a year. And then we're going to start from the beginning. I wonder if I've got 52 shirts, Mr. Duncan.
You know what? That is a brilliant idea. Maybe one week on the live stream, one Sunday, we could talk about our own clothing. So we could show some of our clothes. Maybe we could show some of our favourite clothes, but also maybe some of the things that we bought in the past, but would never wear again.
Now, yes, that's a good idea,
now,
Mr. Duncan.
I know for a fact... I know that Steve has a lot of clothing that he bought, and this was during the time when I was away in China, and you bought some very strange clothes
Well, yes.
that other friends
Said that looked good on me.
that they said looked good on you, but in fact it didn't.
Let's just say I was going out to a lot of nightclubs at the time. I
Oh.
was hanging around with a lot of sort of friends who were probably, well, they were younger than me,
Okay.
and they were trying to get me to go out with them and become more trendy. and this isn't one of the shirts because we bought this together on holiday, but they did try to get me to wear clothes which probably were too young for me at the time.
Yes, this is the problem though. So sometimes you can buy an item of clothing and maybe someone says, "Oh, that looks great on you."
Yes.
But really later you realize that that particular item of clothing does not look good.
No.
So maybe we could do that one week. We could have a look at some of our clothes from the past, things that we used to wear, or maybe things that we bought and decided that maybe we shouldn't wear it because it looks dreadful.
That's a very interesting subject because some people go out shopping, don't they, Mr. Duncan? And they don't spend very much time deciding. They just say, well, like that, and they just buy it and take it home. They make very quick decisions on purchases of clothes.
Bye, Pedro.
Is Pedro going already?
Yes.
How rude. He's probably got something else to do. Doesn't matter. We don't mind. We know you'll be back. And but some people, like myself, go out shopping and I thought, well, shall I have that? Shan't I? Does that look quite right? Doesn't it? And my head gets filled with indecision and then I end up going home buying nothing. I'll tell you something. Never go shopping with my sister.
Oh, your sister loves shopping.
My sister is a shopaholic. I shouldn't say that. But she loves going shopping. But she will. I went out shopping once with my sister when I was in my early 20s, and she just told me to buy that. That'll suit you. Buy that. And, you know, I never wore any of them.
No,
Spent a fortune and never wore any. Got them home, and I didn't like them.
Yeah. There are two things you should never do. There are two things you should never do. And this is a little tip from me. You should never go shopping with other people if you are buying clothes, because quite often you can make a bad purchase. And the other thing,
I don't necessarily agree with you there.
yes, but they might persuade you to wear something that because they're trying to change your image, but maybe they're trying to change your image too much.
Or maybe they're getting bored and they just want to go out of the shop and they just tell you to buy it so that
Yes.
you can get out of the shop and go for a cup of coffee.
Yes,
I've
that's
done
it.
that.
That's it. So, and another thing as well, talking of buying things, never go to the supermarket to buy food if you are hungry. Never. So never do your grocery shopping if you are hungry. And the reason why I say that is because you are more tempted to put lots of things into the basket
True.
if you are hungry.
So never go shopping for clothes if your clothes are getting tatty,
Yes,
because otherwise you'll buy anything.
that's it. You might be tempted to buy anything.
Bye,
So-
Pedro.
See you, Pedro. Bye.
I wonder what Pedro's going to do.
I'm very interested.
I'd like to know.
Maybe-
Good luck, says Tias.
Okay then.
Why good luck?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe Pedro's going somewhere. Maybe for an
Ah,
interview.
yes. Or a date.
A date.
A date even,
oh.
yes.
Now I'm very interested.
A lot of new people on the live chat today, Mr. Duncan.
Shall we have another look at the live chat? There it is.
Hi from Germany, says Edeltraud. Schmidt. Belarusias. Oh, we're saying but goodbye to TS. There we go. I saw somebody new, but I couldn't pronounce their name because it's in, is it syllabic, second from the top?
Ah, yes, of course. That looks... Let me just get that back again. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that looks like, I want to say Thai.
Really?
I think that might be from Thailand.
Well, hello.
This is the first time for me. Nice to meet you all. And I think that might be Thai. I hope I'm not wrong, but I think it is. I think it's Thai.
World of Tanks.
Oh, okay.
Good Games. World of Tanks. Talker by Pedro.
Oh.
I wonder what that means. Okay then, Pedro. Good luck. Good luck in what? Hello, Tias.
Well, I'm very
Hello,
intrigued.
Tias.
I'm really interested. I want to know what Pedro is doing.
Yes, tell us before you go.
Don't leave me in suspense.
Next Monday, says Caridas, is a day without buying. Don't buy anything.
Oh, is this a special event taking place around the world? So, according to Caridas, next Monday is a day without buying anything.
Oh, blimey, that won't be very good for the economy, will it?
No, so one day a year, no one goes to the shops. No one orders anything off the internet. So, yeah.
I can't see that going down very well with governments.
No, I don't think so. Or even large businesses.
They won't like a no buying day, but I think it's a very good... Well, it used to be Sunday. Sunday, traditionally, in this country, was a day when all the shops were shut, literally all of them. So you couldn't buy anything. But now, of course, they're open all year round.
Yes.
Apart from certain bank holidays.
I don't think the shops are ever closed anymore.
I think we got caught out once. Do you remember? I think there's one day... I think they still shut on Christmas Day. Well, not all of them.
The one I think it is, Steve, I think it might be if Easter falls... I think it's Good Friday.
Or is it Easter Sunday? Sure it's not Easter Sunday?
Because, of course, many shops now open on Sunday. So all of those old laws don't exist anymore.
They have to shut at 4.
And if Easter Sunday, well, Easter Sunday always falls on a Sunday, so you can't open your shops at all, so you are not allowed to do it. So that's the only day of the year that you are not allowed to actually open your shop, on Easter Sunday. But all the rest of the days, even Christmas Day...
Depending on your religion, I would imagine.
Can you believe it? Even Christmas Day now, some shops are open. Incredible. Anyway, enough about Christmas.
Of course, we're a multicultural society now of many religions.
Yes.
And a lot of these laws about shop openings are to do with religion, so Church of England. So we're a multi-faith country.
Yes.
So obviously...
That's
people of other faiths will keep their shops open.
Actually, we're secular, aren't we? I think you'll find the UK is a secular country.
We are, but traditionally, that's why the shops would be closed on a Sunday in this country, because it was a day of worship.
So everything's a bit more free and easy.
Now, of course, we're game for anything.
Yes. We are talking about lots of things today. Now...
What?
We are talking... What's wrong?
Irene said she had a house or a hen house.
Oh, okay.
Is that a house with hens in it?
We had a fire in our hen house last week. The firemen came and it took 2 hours to extinguish the flames. Now, what I want to know is how did the fire start? Now, were the hens, were they playing with fire? Were they smoking? So maybe all of the hens were in the hen house and they were having a cigarette, because sometimes they do, these animals. They can. I don't know how they hold the cigarette, by the way. Maybe
wings.
Maybe they hold it with their wing, or maybe they hold it between their foot, one of their feet.
2 hours. That's a bad fire.
Yes,
that's a lot of roast chicken.
That's incredible. So
shouldn't be nasty.
No,
I'm just joking.
Steve said that, not me.
Did any hens die? That's what we want to know.
Yes.
Was it a tragedy?
How are the hens?
How are the hens?
Are they okay? Were there any boiled eggs? Oh, dear. Anyway, I hope everything's all right, seriously. The first thing next time, we will ask Pedro what he did. Yes, we want to know what Pedro is up to today, because it must be very important if he's leaving us.
Exactly. What could be more important than watching us?
What could be more important than this?
I just don't know.
He
must be meeting the Queen or something like that. Or that's it. He must have been invited to the presidential palace.
I think something's going on.
It's got to be something spectacular.
Yes. Oh, we have the mystery idiom. Let's show the mystery idiom very briefly whilst Mr. Steve drinks some more vodka. The mystery idiom, there it is, a well-known phrase. I'm sure you know what it is, Steve.
I've already guessed it, yes. Even I can guess that one.
You are so smart.
Not usually very good at those sorts of things.
So smart. So there it is.
If anyone doesn't get that...
Go on.
I would... No, how can I be diplomatic?
Well,
If anyone doesn't get that one,
I think it's too late.
then I would say that maybe they've never heard of it before.
Caradas says, was the rooster on fire with the hens? Yes,
Oh, yes.
maybe they were getting very passionate. And maybe they were getting so passionate that sparks started to fly off the birds. And maybe that's how it happened. Maybe that's how the fire started.
Other people are joining in with the roast chicken jokes.
Oh, I see.
So we do apologise if it is causing offence
Yes.
to the person whose name has now gone off the screen,
Yes.
whose hen house did it burn down? We want more details.
Can we have more details?
more details, please?
About the hen house. I hope nothing's really, really bad happened, or else we are both in so much trouble.
We've been watching a new comedy series, haven't we? Which
Have we?
Which is, let's just say, the people in it are not particularly nice people.
Okay.
It's comedy, but they don't really have any respect or any empathy or any thoughts for other people. They're just very selfish people in this sitcom. But it's extremely funny.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
That's the name of it.
That's the name of the show, and we started watching it a few days ago, and it's hilarious. It's so funny. And the people in it do all sorts of unmentionable things. They are really, really horrible people. Besides that, it's very funny to watch.
It's a bad influence because you end up my voice is going, Mr. Duncan. You end up sort of thinking about behaving. They say you are what you think and what you watch, what you eat, don't they? So if you watch programs like this,
You are what you think. Yes.
well, that's it. Well, what's going on up here is probably how you're going to behave in real life.
Yes.
But anyway, right.
So today we are talking about the police. Shall we have a look at this? I love this clip.
Police.
This is my favourite thing today. So this is what we're talking about today. Have you been in trouble with the police? Police words and expressions as well. Now, I must admit, I've never been in trouble with the police, ever.
You goody two-shoes.
I've never been in trouble with the police. However, I have been in trouble with the authorities, certain authorities. Now, by that word authority can mean anyone who controls the rules or makes sure that the rules are carried out. So the rules must be obeyed. So I have been in trouble as a child because, of course, when you are a child, you do things sometimes that
things
that you shouldn't. You do things that you shouldn't. You do silly things when you are young. And I remember at school I was punished. I was punished for damaging a tree.
Damaging a tree?
In the school. So that's what happened. So it wasn't just me. It was two other people as well. We were all hanging off this small tree. And one of the branches broke off. And the teacher saw it happen. And we were all taken to the headmistress, where she punished us. She slapped our hands very, very hard. I remember it being very painful, and I was so embarrassed afterwards. I was really embarrassed. And of course, if you are in trouble at school, they will always tell your parents as well. So that was a very embarrassing moment for me, and I was only about 7 or 8 years old.
Duncan, you were so bad, damaging a tree.
Wait a minute. So what are you telling me, Steve? Are you telling me that you've never been in trouble with anyone?
Damaging a tree, that's the worst thing you ever did as a child, blimey. Mr. Duncan.
Why?
You haven't lived.
Can you beat that?
Well, I'm not sure I can beat it. What are you saying? Have I ever been in trouble with the police?
Have you ever been in
Oh,
trouble?
I'm a hardened criminal, Mr. Duncan. I've done time.
Can I just tell you now, don't be taken in by Mr. Steve's innocent smile and his sparkling eyes. Beneath this exterior, there is a hardened criminal.
A mastermind of crime.
A crime.
I know. I haven't really. I have had the odd brush with the law.
Oh,
I think we all have.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Brush with. Well, I haven't actually got that one.
No, if you have a brush with the law.
Brush with the law.
Well, I can write that down.
You can write that down.
If we've missed that out.
I've missed that one out. A brush with the law. It just means that you might have done something that wasn't necessarily a crime, but the police have maybe had words with you, given you a bit of a warning, maybe. Maybe you were driving erratically, speeding, or maybe you were hanging around in the park or doing something you shouldn't be. The police might come up to you and give you a bit of a warning.
So
you
you
would
have
say that you've had a brush with the law. So
Yes.
it's just like somebody brushing you.
Yes.
You know, it's nothing serious. It's
You've-
not like you've been put into handcuffs
No.
and
Or
taken off to jail.
you haven't been locked in prison.
You haven't been locked in prison, but you could have been. No, you could have been taken in for questioning. You might. Police might come to your door and say, "No, I want to come in and ask you some questions."
This is one of the
Mr.
things.
Duncan?
This is one of the things we always say about the police. Now, I remember growing up, we would always make fun of the police, and we would always put on a very strange voice when we imitated the police. We would always imagine the policeman saying, "Hello, hello, hello. What's going on here then?"
We do. That's how we. Yes, that's how we would picture Mr. Plod,
Hello,
as he was
hello,
called, Mr. Plod.
hello, hello, hello.
Because policemen used to patrol the streets. It was a reassuring sign for many, many years. But of course, recently, since the sort of 1960s, 1970s, the amount of police patrolling the streets has gone down and down.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, crime hasn't necessarily gone up as a result.
No.
Certain crimes, I think, have, but generally, actually, in the Western world, crime apparently has been coming down for decades.
I suppose it
'Cause there's
depends. It depends which type of crime.
Which type of crime?
So maybe
Yes.
some crimes don't occur because you could be caught more easily, and then other crimes that are harder to solve, they go up or stay where they are.
Well, as societies become more wealthy,
Yeah,
there's a direct correlation between the wealth of a society
correlation.
and the amount of crime.
What does correlation mean?
Connected with.
Yes. So the two things are connected.
So
one thing is connected to something else. It is associated with it.
yes. So if a country is quite rich, has a lot of wealth, there could be high employment, nice socio-economic conditions.
Socio-economic conditions.
Yes, a harmonious place to live. Then there'll be less crime because people generally commit crimes because they want something somebody else has got. So it's robbery. If you've got lots of drugs, there'll be lots of drug-related crime. And of course, in certain parts of this country, like in other parts of the country.
Anyway, we're getting bogged down. We're getting stuck in all of
To
this.
know how I've been involved with Mr. Plod.
We will have a look in a bit. We will find out about Mr. Steve's life of crime. But first, let's have a look at some words associated with what we're talking about today. First, police. Well, police is a noun, but we normally refer to that word as the police. So quite often, or more often than not, we will say the police. It will be treated as a plural. A plural.
Not the pop group.
The civil force of a state responsible for the prevention and detection of crime and the maintenance of public order. So when we talk about public order, we mean society being kept in some sort of control, and that's why we have laws. Also, you can say members of a police force. So the police force is the organisation in charge of maintaining and observing law and keeping law and order, or should we say public order as well. So that is the word police. Also, as we continue, you can use it as a verb as well. So of the police force with the group that is in charge of keeping law and order. Also, there are some rather interesting terms as well. Police terms. Some of them are offensive, by the way. Now, I've only put them here today just to show you, but I don't agree with these words before anyone starts to complain. So there are some police names, including slang terms. You can have boys in blue.
These would be ones used in the UK,
Yes.
you would say.
Well, you can use some of these in the UK. Some of them can be used in other countries as well. So the boys in blue, that is a term that describes the police because their uniforms are very dark blue. Although I always think they look black.
Yes,
But
maybe they've
apparently
changed.
they are dark blue. Also coppers. Coppers.
Coppers.
So coppers, the coppers. So copper. A copper is a policeman. And in the United States, quite often the police will be referred to as cops. Cops. And the reason why we use that word, of course, is because the word cop means to catch someone. If you grab someone or catch hold of them, you cop them. And
Cop hold of them.
You cop hold. Yes, you
Ah.
cop hold of them. So that's the reason why they are called cops.
Coppers.
Because they catch people. The next one is filth. That is offensive. Never ever say that to a policeman unless you like spending the night in a cell. Also fuzz as well. The fuzz. There is a movie called Hot Fuzz. So fuzz is another word, an informal word for police. Here's one that I remember growing up. Old Bill. The Old Bill. The Old Bill, of course, relates to the police. The next one is very offensive. This is the worst of all. I'm not even going to say it. So you can...
I will.
Oh, Steve wants to say it.
Well, yes, pigs.
Pigs.
It's
Okay.
the pigs. The pigs are here. The police are here.
Yeah, look out, the pigs are coming. So
I don't think it's that offensive. Well, it would be to a policeman.
I think to a policeman or policewoman or police neutral gender, it would be very, very offensive. And finally, we have rozzers.
I don't know what that means or where it comes from.
No, I'm not sure how that came about, but rozzer. So the rozzers. Again, that is a term that is normally used in the UK. So that is often used in this country. The rozzers. So there you can see some terms, some terminology for the police. I am in the process of making a long special lesson all about law and order and the police, and that will be coming during October because it's an exciting month in October.
Is it your 100th live lesson?
No, it is my 12th anniversary on YouTube.
Well, Belarusia earlier said that she thought it was your 100th live lesson was going to occur in October.
Really?
Yes.
I think
I noticed that she said that right at the beginning.
I think I've done more than 100.
Yes, your 12th year.
So this is
12th anniversary.
So my 12th anniversary, 12 years ago, on the 31st of October, I started doing my recorded English lessons in China. And here
in a
I
little
am.
bedroom in Wolverhampton.
No?
Oh, you're talking about over in China?
Yes, in China.
Oh, I thought you meant the first one, proper one here in the UK.
No, when I first started my YouTube channel. So
So you're
Tomek,
counting that one, right?
Tomek says, I used to live in a police state. When I was 7, I was chased by a policeman. I'm not going to say what you said. for no particular reason. And he hit me once with a long stick on my back. I was completely innocent. Oh, Tomek. So Tomek says he was innocent. He hadn't done anything wrong.
Police state, that's an interesting phrase.
Quite often, the police will carry a weapon in their hands, normally a large stick. Here we call it a truncheon.
That's it.
So a truncheon is a large rubber stick.
With wood in the middle.
And yes, so they used to be made of wood, but I think nowadays they're made of rubber.
Yes.
Hard rubber. And you beat the person if you are trying to control them. Of course, nowadays they also use a thing that will send electricity through their body. And it's called a taser. Taser gun.
Yes, a lot of people die from those.
Yes, sometimes if they've got a weak heart or a heart condition. So if they get tasered, they can die because of the reaction.
Of course, they also carry guns now.
And of course, the big one, yes, the big one, of course, not here necessarily all over the place. So the police in this country, in England or in the UK, don't all carry guns. Some do. It depends what type of policeman they are. So if they are protecting the government or a building where important people are meeting, so they will then carry a gun. But on an average day, on a normal day, the police do not carry guns. However, in the United States, they do.
And in lots of other countries, they do.
That's it, yes. So here, most of our policemen, the ones you see on the street generally, don't carry guns. So let's go back to the live chat and then we will find out what Mr. Steve did when he was a child. He did something that apparently...
How do you know?
Well... You said just now that you did something when you...
I want to reveal what I used to do as only a child. Mind you, we've got to be careful what we say when we did as a child, based on what we've seen on the US television recently.
Ah, yes, of course.
Something that you did in your teenage years.
Yes.
Can be used to get you into a lot of trouble when you're older.
Well, I think it depends how serious the crime is.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
There is a difference between what you did and what
exactly
the person...
What I did. I didn't do it, Mr. Duncan. You're making a mountain out of a molehill.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that the thing you did wasn't that serious.
Oh, look. Sujin, that's very brave, when she was at university, she took part in a student's demonstration.
Oh, okay.
We stayed for a day. They gave us food. It was delicious.
Oh,
maybe perhaps they agreed with your cause.
Oh, that's interesting. So Sujin says,
rebel.
When I was at university, I took part in a student's demonstration.
I just read that out.
Yes, I'm reading it myself now. It is an English lesson. So when I was at university or when I was a university student, I took part in a student's demonstration. So I'm just correcting.
Oh, right, I see. Yes. Well done.
That's what we're doing, you see. It's an English lesson. I took part in a student's demonstration. I was caught by the police, like some other students. We were detained. Now, you can say you were detained. That's a great word. So to be detained means you are held. You are held against your will. So you don't want to be there. You are held in place. You are detained. So we were detained by the police officers for a day. And they gave us food, which was very delicious. So yes, another word we can use is custody.
Yes.
You are taken into custody. You are taken into a police station and you are held there. Held there. You are in custody.
Yes, there's a good joke about that, Mr. Duncan.
Is there?
Yes. A milk lorry and a flour lorry collided on the motorway in a serious accident. The drivers were both taken into custody. Custody, because custard is something that you put on your pudding and made from flour and eggs and milk. That's a bit of a joke. Obviously, Mr. Duncan has lost his sense of humour.
Hilarious. Oh, we have some new people joining. Would you like to have a look there, Steve? I know Steve loves the live chat. Oh, we've got Do Heyman. Do Haynam is watching in Vietnam. So I am Vietnamese. I am watching in Vietnam. So hello to you. If it is your first time, please let me know. Danilo is here as well. Hello. Hello, Mr. Duncan. Please send me a hi to Brazil. Hello to Brazil.
Oh, hello, Brazil.
I believe
and Vietnam.
I believe, Steve, you have some words for
I do.
us. Some words.
Some words connected with, actually not the police, but with law, with the law.
Yes. We are talking all about the law today.
We are.
And one of the big questions today is, have you ever been in trouble with the law?
Has anybody told it? Well, we've only had one person so far that has admitted being in trouble with the police.
Ah.
Interesting. I expect lots of people have been caught, like I have, speeding. When you drive a lot of miles, eventually you'll get. If you tend to speed, eventually you will get caught. Law of averages. We'll come on to that later. So yes, you'll get caught eventually, and of course I've been caught a few times by cameras, speed cameras. In fact, once I was stopped by the police.
Ah, yes. So this is something I wanted to get onto. So you were stopped by the police, but also when I used to ride my motorbike, I was always, if the police were nearby when I was on the road, they would often pull me over.
Would they?
And ask to see my license.
Oh, right.
Because I don't know why. Was it because they couldn't see me?
Yes.
I had a helmet on.
A lot of young people tend to ride motorbikes without a license.
Yes.
So they were doing like a spot check.
Yes.
But that probably they wouldn't need to do that now because your number plate would come up on a computer. So when you were growing up, they wouldn't have had all these computer systems with all the information in a central spot.
Yes,
so
a
they
central
would have
spot.
To stop you. We used to have to carry our license. You don't carry your license anymore.
No.
In the
So they
UK.
could just take a picture of your number plate on your car and they know all of the details about the driver, the tax and the insurance.
MOT.
Instantly. It's
Instantly.
Very, very clever. But the big question is, what was your brush with the law?
Well, that was it, Mr. Duncan. I was on the motorway, and actually I was trying to get home. I was probably about 26, Mr. Duncan, and I was going 90 miles an hour when the speed limit was 70. And I got pulled over by the police at about 9 o'clock at night.
What happened to you?
He said he didn't give me a ticket because I remember somebody telling me, if you ever get stopped by the police, be as polite as possible. And I was very apologetic. I was just saying, in fact, it was true. I was in a hurry to get home to see my mother and father. And the road was quite empty, but I was doing 90, so I got stopped. So that's probably about 120 kilometres an hour, so it was well over the speed limit. But actually, I've got to admit something else. When I was younger, Mr. Duncan. What?
Nothing?
Mr. Duncan. When I was younger, I had a friend and we were very, very naughty. And I think lots of people. You, Mr. Duncan, used to steal apples. I think children always do this. When you're a certain age, children, you sort of get excited and you want to do different things.
It sounds like you're getting excited now. You're getting excited.
I had a friend, and he used to lead me astray. He was very naughty, and he used to say, "Oh, come on, let's go and nick things from the shops."
Stealing.
So we used to sometimes do that. It was very naughty, and we got caught once, Mr. Duncan. We actually got caught. So that's my brush with the law.
I can't believe this.
Ticking off.
I find this incredible. I remember years ago when you first told me this, and I was really shocked. My mouth was open. My jaw dropped.
I think I was only about 13 at the time, 14, something like that.
So when you were 13 years old, you used to go with your friend and you used to go into the shops and you'd steal things.
Just as a joke, just as a bit, it was more like a dare.
But
let's see it was a dare, actually. We said, right, see what you can get. You know, we didn't realize the consequences of what we were doing. We were young at the time. Anyway, we got caught and we got a severe telling off, I can tell you. And the police gave us a really good talking to. And that was like that, actually. That maybe I could have, if we hadn't have been caught, I could have been been going down a path of a life of crime.
A life
I don't think that would have happened.
No,
because it was just like a bit of a prank.
So the story, I'm trying to wrap this up.
Yes,
so we can
move. Yeah, move on.
No.
There's nothing. Just a moment.
But
in
there
time.
is. But this is a very good story.
Why?
It's a good story because there is a moral to the story.
Don't steal.
Don't steal, and also it puts you on the right road.
Well, I suppose it might have done, yes.
Yes, you see,
because I didn't do anything naughty, and haven't done anything naughty since that day.
So since you were 13, you've done nothing illegal.
No, nothing.
So you have stopped.
Nothing at all, Mr.
You
Duncan.
have stopped.
Nothing.
You have stopped shoplifting. You no longer shoplift.
You have to keep saying that word, Mr. Duncan. It was just a childhood prank. And anyway, you've got to push the boundaries a bit, you know, find out what you can get away with, what you can't get away with. You know, you can't lead a boring life.
You told me that you found it very exciting.
No harm was done.
You said it was very exciting.
I can't really remember, Mr. Duncan. I can't remember.
By the way, does your mother know about this?
I'm gonna steal this pen, Mr. Duncan. I like this pen. I'm having it. It's mine.
Does your mother know?
I'm having this peg as well. It's mine.
Does your mother know that you were arrested by the police when
I
you
wasn't arrested by the police. It wasn't that. It was. Let's just say I was grounded for a few days for being a bit of a naughty boy.
Naughty, Mr. Steve. I can't believe this. Wow.
You know, it wasn't nothing particularly serious. No harm done.
No,
harm done.
No, unless of course you are the poor shopkeeper.
Oh, they make enough money. I'm only joking.
So there
Naughty boy, says T.S. I was, yes, but I'm a reformed character.
This is it, but that's the point. The point, it's a positive story in the fact that you learnt your lesson.
Well, yes. I suppose you could say that.
You were going off the straight. You were going into something a little shady, illegal, something naughty. But by being caught by the police, they took you away and they had a word with
but
you.
You see, if I had not been caught, or if I might have thought, you see, but I could have said to myself, now next time, I'm going to be more careful, and I could have developed new ways of becoming undetectable by the police, and I could have actually become a high level criminal. Maybe I could have gone into bank robbing.
Yes, that's it.
And or into sophisticated crimes.
Yes,
cyber crime.
You could have been a drug lord.
Exactly. I could have been worth millions now. It would never have happened. It was. I was always a very well-behaved child.
Anyway, thank you very much for your honesty.
Well, you just outed me, Mr. Duncan.
I thought you wanted to talk about it. So you didn't want to mention that on the live stream.
Not particularly, Mr. Duncan. Not particularly.
Have I done bad?
You have, and I shall punish you later.
Oh, I look forward to that. I can't wait. So yes, a moral lesson. I think so. Don't steal. Don't be a thief.
DMAS31 says, "Can you turn the globe around so that you can see Russia?"
Oh, okay. Which globe?
This one here, I think.
Okay. It doesn't go round very easily.
There it is.
Are you sure?
There's Russia.
Yes.
Russia.
Can
you see it?
Yes. It's green.
It's the tilt of the Earth means that you can't actually see it that clearly. Is Lithuania on there, where your lovely watch comes from?
Lithuania's. Oh, I haven't got it on today.
Oh, you haven't got your watch on. You haven't got your Vostok watch on today, Mr. Duncan.
I haven't got my watch on because I forgot. I was rushing.
Vostok Europe watch, which I bought you for your birthday present.
I was Russian.
Believe you.
I was Russian around. Russian. Talking of which, do you want to see?
Only 20 minutes to go, Mr. Duncan. I've got all these words to talk about.
Do you want to see our names in Russian?
Go on.
There it is.
Which is which?
So the first one is me, Duncan.
No.
Well,
Okay, is that Russian?
It actually, yes, that's Russian for Duncan. So that is Duncan. So that basically says Duncan.
Right.
And the other one is you.
Does that say Steve?
It says Steven.
Steven.
Steven, yes.
Is
So
Mr. Vodka on today?
no, Mr. Vodka is not here.
Oh, because he sent us that lovely video
Yes.
of him pronouncing the Russian alphabet.
That's it. So there it is. So, well, I researched this last night. So there we go. So Duncan and Stephen in Russian.
T.S. is laughing, saying destroying tree branches is a crime. I think what you did was far worse than what I did.
Really?
Yes, destroying a tree branch is a serious crime.
So you think damaging a tree is worse than stealing from someone's business?
Yes, exactly.
Okay then. If you say so.
Come on, 20 minutes, Mr. Duncan. I've got all these words to go through.
We've got 20 minutes left, and then Mr. Steve and myself will go. So let's have a look. What have you got, Steve?
First one, are you above the law? Above the law. That means somebody who thinks that they operate outside the normal laws of society.
Uh-huh.
A common expression that is used if somebody is very rich, or let's say they're a policeman, or they've got lots of money, and then they break the law, a high profile or a celebrity. You can use the expression that nobody is above the law. In other words, it doesn't matter your status in society, how much money you have, or whether you know what your job is. If you commit a crime, you must be punished according to the law of the land, which is for everybody. There are no exceptions. But sometimes some people think that they are above the law and that the laws don't apply to them and they can do what they like. And we often see this sometimes. People used to, when we had the banking crisis, they would say that a lot of the banking companies thought that they were above the law because they would do whatever they liked and just got away with it. And I think it's probably true to say that the more money you've got, the less likely you are to go to prison for a crime. Because you can pay people off, you can do all sorts of things if you've got lots of money. So sometimes people will say that rich people think they're above the law, they can do what they like, and I think they do often get away with it because you can pay people off if you've got lots of money, can't you?
Yes, we can say that the person will flout the law.
Flout the law. But,
so they flout the law. They think that the law doesn't apply to them because they are special. They think because they have lots of money, they don't have to obey the rules. And this happens a lot in society.
It can be used sometimes, not necessarily referring to sort of crimes like murder and theft and things like that. It can you can use it flippantly. You can use that phrase flippantly. So, do you think you're above the law?
Yes.
It might be to do with your workplace and things that happen at work.
And the opposite, of course, is no one is above the law.
I said that.
So that's it. Yes, I didn't say you didn't say it.
Take the law into your own hands. If someone takes the law into their own hands, it means that they don't follow the normal procedures involved in prosecuting somebody. So if you think, so for example, somebody murders your wife, for example, and you decide that the police are taking too long to solve this crime, you think you know who it is, and you go out there and you go and kill somebody, the person you think has murdered your wife. And so you take the law into your own hands. So instead of waiting for the police to get the evidence together and take them to court and prosecute them, then you take the law into you decide, you become the judge and the jury and the executioner, and you decide that you're going to take care of this yourself. Of course, this itself is a crime, and because unless you collect the evidence, you could be completely wrong.
Yes, well,
And
this is the problem.
Many people take revenge on somebody who they think has done something, and it's not them, and then they end up committing a serious crime themselves and end up in prison. And in civilized society, you have to let the law take its process. Otherwise, we will be living in like the laws of the jungle.
Well, it'll be lawless.
Lawless society.
Yeah. So to take the law in your own hands, you take something into your own hands. You act as if you are the police.
Yes.
You act as if the law is yours.
Of course, sometimes somebody is guilty of a crime, but they can't get enough evidence together to prosecute them, and which sometimes happens because the process means you have to be guilty. If you're found guilty of something,
Yes.
you have to be proved, all reasonable doubt.
Yes, you have to be
And,
found guilty. So there has to be evidence. There has to be proof that you did that thing.
Exactly. So take the law into your own hands can backfire on you
So
quite
you
badly.
you give out your own punishment.
Give out your own punishment, yes. Here's another one. A law unto him or herself.
Ah.
If somebody describes you as somebody who is a law unto himself or herself, it means you're a bit of a maverick. It means that you don't necessarily... We're not necessarily talking about legal law here. We're not talking about somebody who would go out and commit crimes. If you describe somebody as a law unto themselves, it's more about at work, for example. If they don't necessarily follow all the rules of society, it doesn't mean they're literally committing crimes. It means that they follow their own path. They do things their own way. So we can describe somebody at work, for example, as if you're in, for example, I'm in sales, and the company might say to you, right, this year we want you to sell this, and this. This is what we want you to do. Your work might not be sales, it could be anything. And this is what we want you to achieve at the end of the year. And this is how we think you should do it. But somebody who's a law unto themselves will just go off and do it their own way. Often they're not punished because they often do achieve results in something, but they do it their own way.
Yeah, it's
so
actually
usually
very
successful.
It's actually
people.
very similar. It's similar to the one you had earlier. So you're making up your own rules. You are
well. That one's a bit different.
yes, but it's kind of similar as well because you're making your own rules. You're going against the things that you should do, and you're doing things your own way.
Yes,
so
but that's
not exactly the same. I know.
But that's referring to actual crimes.
Yes,
Whereas this isn't necessarily referring to a crime.
that's it.
It's referring to just the way you do things in everyday life.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you're going to commit a crime.
No, that's it. Just generally, you do things your own way.
You do things your own way. That's right.
Another one.
To get on the wrong side of the law.
Ooh.
To get on the wrong side of the law means that you've committed a crime and the police arrest you, and you've done something bad. You're on the wrong side of the law, so you're in the bad part. That one's fairly self-explanatory, I think.
Here's an interesting term. Just before we'll just take a break from that, we can have law and order terms, and here's a good one: the long arm of the law.
How do you know I haven't already got that one, Mr. Duncan?
Well, I just guessed you hadn't.
Oh, thanks a lot.
I just guessed. So the long arm of the law. So this relates to the power held by those with authority, such as the police, and those with the power of authority. So they can use the laws of the land to tell people what to do. The long arm of the law.
Well, yes, and it often refers to the fact that you can't escape justice.
Yes.
It means that authorities will go after you for a long time, so that the police, the law is coming. You can't escape the law. It means there's always the fingers of the police and authorities out there to get you.
Yes. So you can't escape.
That's it. Yes, the long arm of the law. For example, if you committed a crime in this country and then you went and moved abroad somewhere, you still might be caught because wherever you go, then justice can be found.
That's
Somebody
it.
will always search for you if you've committed a bad crime.
Yes, you can be hunted down.
Lay down the law. I'm going to lay down the law. Now, this is really in sort of domestic situations or at work. It's the law of the household. So, for example, if you went out, if you were a teenager living at home and you kept being late back, your parents caught you smoking and taking drugs, and you were staying out late and drinking a lot, your parents might lay down the law to you. In other words, tell you remind you how you could need to conduct yourself if you're going to live in your parents' house. They'd sit down to you and lay down the law.
Yes.
They give you a good telling off.
So they tell you what the rules are and the things you must obey.
It's a telling off, really.
You lay down the law.
You might be in a relationship as well. So your wife might lay down the law to you. I want you home. You've got to be home for tea at 5 o'clock. She's laying down the law to you. I'm making the tea and you've got to be here ready for it.
A nagging wife.
Well, not nagging, but yeah, right. Now, that's laid... Right, so here's another one.
Oh, okay.
Possession is 9 points of the law, is an expression that we hear from time to time. Possession is 9 points of the law. So what does that mean? It means that if you actually own something, if you actually got something, even if it really isn't yours, you can then, when you go to court, say you borrowed something from somebody, and then a book, for example, or a watch, and you'd had it for a long time, and then the person that owned it suddenly wanted it back. It could be a car, it could be anything, or a sofa. And then that person wanted it back. You could actually claim that it was yours. If you went to court, you could say, well, I've got it, therefore it's mine. And unless you can really prove that it's yours, chances are that you'll successfully keep it. So unless you've stolen it, that's different. We're not talking about theft. But possession is 9 points of the law. There used to be 9 points of the law, apparently.
I always thought it was 9/10 of the law.
Oh, yes, or 9/10.
Yes.
9 points or 9/10 of the law.
That's always the expression I'm familiar with. So 9 points
Yes.
of the law or 9/10.
It means you've got a strong legal case for owning something if you've actually got it.
Yes.
So, for example, another example would be if you've got a family heirloom, if you've got a watch handed down through the family, and say, for example, I had it, and my sister said that, but my father said I could have it, but you could go to court and say, but I've got it, so it's mine, I've got it, she hasn't got it, and the law would probably come down on your side, because if you actually possess that thing, then you probably is yours.
So how does it work when you steal something?
Well, that's different. We're not talking about theft.
If I steal my neighbour's bike and then I'm riding around on it and then my neighbour says, I want my bike back, I can say, no, it's mine. I've 9/10 of the law.
Well, yeah, we won't go into that in too much detail.
No, because then they can prove that you stole it. So
That's
yes,
it.
that's it.
The law of the jungle. 5 minutes, I've got to get all these in. The law of the jungle. It's an expression that actually comes from Rudyard Kipling's book, The Jungle Book.
Okay.
But it's not used in the same way. So it means really survival of the fittest or survival of the strongest. That's how we use it in society now. It describes a situation where people who are strong and do not care about other people are the most successful. So that's what it's describing. So, for example, if you work on the stock markets, if you work in banks, if you're a drug pusher, then in those situations, it's the law of the jungle, the fittest survive, the strongest, without care for anybody else, which actually is not how the expression was used in the book itself, in Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book.
I don't think Rudyard Kipling was referring to drug pushers.
Well, he was referring. There actually was a law, and you weren't supposed to go. The animals in the jungle were supposed to abide by certain rules, but the way it's used in society now is very differently. It literally is in business. It could be in business, yes, but if you are involved in drugs, then if you're selling drugs, I mean that's it's the law of the jungle. And certain areas of certain towns that are lawless, where there's no the police won't even go into.
I don't remember reading Jungle Book. I don't remember a scene in Jungle Book where Baloo was standing on a street corner selling crack cocaine.
Well, I'm just on about different examples of crimes.
Good.
Law of averages. The law of averages. This is an idea that no one result will happen all the time.
Okay.
Even if that result is unlikely. So the law of averages, we use that expression a lot. So the law of averages says that if I toss a coin, 50% of the time it'll come up heads, 50% of the time says it'll come up tails. That's the law of averages if I do it enough times. But if I only did it, say, 2 or 3 times, it might come up tails, might come up the same way 3 times in a row.
Yes.
But average it out over a lot of times, and it eventually will come out 50-50.
So the more you do something, that law of average will even out. It will even out.
So, for example, if you're not very good at playing football, or even if you just play football and you haven't scored a goal for a long time, but you have scored goals in the past, someone might say to you, well, don't worry, carry on playing. The law of averages says that you will score a goal eventually. If you just keep doing, you might only score 1 goal in every 10 games. That might be your average. So if you don't score any for 9 games, then it might be 20 games, and then you'll suddenly score 2 goals.
Yes.
The law of averages. You will eventually do it, given enough time.
Yes. So that's actually a good way of also explaining that the proverb about never giving up. So try and try again.
Yes.
So the more you try to do something, the more you endeavour, the more you pursue something, the more you do it, then the greater the chances that you will succeed.
Yes, you might say, yes, that's it. Yeah, so that's it. Given
like
enough time, then that something will eventually happen. No wrong result will happen all the time.
I like it.
The law of diminishing returns.
Okay, that's quite a complicated
The
one.
law of diminishing returns. This is the idea that any measurement of a result, like you're doing a project, it might be a product, it could be an organisation, will eventually begin to flatten over time as more effort and time and money is put into it. So when you're doing something, then you have to have you put in a certain amount of effort to get a result, and at first the more effort you put in, you get more results coming out, but then eventually it flattens out, the curve flattens out, and the more effort you put in, it doesn't necessarily getting you any greater returns. In fact, you could end up getting less returns. Say, for example, you're training to be a runner, or training in tennis, or training for anything. You'll put a lot of effort in, and you will get better and better and better. And then eventually, if you want to get a little bit better, you've got to put much more effort in to get even a small amount of change to improve any more. It's the law of diminishing returns. It's the same when a car, if you're trying to get a car to go faster and faster and faster, most cars can go up to 50 or even 100 miles an hour now, but to go to 200 miles an hour, you've got to put the higher the speed, the more energy and effort you have to put in to go faster and faster, because there's resistance and all sorts of things like that take place. If you do homework, if you're trying to learn English, for example, you might say, well, I'll study 10 minutes a day. Fine, but if you study 20 minutes a day, you'll probably get twice as good. If you study an hour a day, you'll probably get 3 times as good. But if you start to do 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, you won't get that much better, because you can only do so much, put so much effort into it. The law of diminishing returns.
Yes.
There's an optimal point of effort for any task, and if you go over that, you have to put a lot more energy into it to get even a small increase in the result.
I think learning is a good way of expressing that as well.
Yes.
So yes, that's why it takes such a long time to learn a subject. So if you want to be a doctor, you might have to go to university or to study for 7 years. And that's because it takes a long time. The more knowledge you gather, then the longer it will take to actually succeed or to learn everything that's involved.
Yes.
It's a bit like learning English.
That's it. So, I mean, another example would be because everyone gets homework at school, but if you would think that if you give a student twice as much homework, they would get twice as good, but it's not necessarily the case because then it becomes stressful and they can end up being worse off. Here's another one. Caridas has already beaten me there to the post with an expression, Murphy's Law, which in the UK we use the phrase sod's law, but they are one and the same. Do you want to put that up, Mr. Duncan?
So anything that can go wrong, will go wrong. Murphy's Law.
Murphy's
I
Law.
like that. It's pretty cool.
They use Murphy's Law. That's the expression they use in America. But in the UK, we use the phrase sod's law. It's the same thing, and it basically means it's a sort of a humorous expression, really, that means if something can go wrong, it probably will.
Yes.
And we use that expression either before doing something or even after it's gone wrong.
Yes. A good example, of course, tomorrow I want to go outside to do some filming. I really want to. I've planned to do some lovely filming outside.
Yes, you've done a lot of planning for this.
And then I go outside to start filming, and then it begins to rain. And I think, oh, that's Sod's Law.
Or Murphy's Law. It just went wrong right at the point when you wanted to do something. You could be going on holiday and you've got to catch a flight from an airport, and then you miss the flight because on the way there's a traffic jam. And you think, oh, every day I come up this road, it's perfectly all right, but the time I decide to go on holiday, sod's law, there's an accident and I'm late.
That's it.
So if something can go wrong, it probably will, and probably just at the point you don't want it to.
Quite often, if you're in a hurry to do something, you will often find that Murphy's Law or Sod's Law will come into play. It's time for us to go.
It's often an excuse for not preparing properly. Because if you were doing an important project at work, then you would try to take an account of all the things that could go wrong, so that Sod's Law or Murphy's Law wouldn't apply. It's time to go, Mr. Duncan.
It wouldn't be
rush those words. I feel that's a bit of a rush.
No, it wasn't. It's perfect. Your tempo, your timing was perfect. So don't worry. Before we go, we're going to have a look at the mystery idiom. There it is now on your screen.
Even I got this one, Mr. Duncan.
Even Steve got it. And you know, that's saying something. Needle in a haystack. The meaning, well, this is an expression that means something is hard to find. A situation where something is hard to find can be described as being like looking for a needle in a haystack. Something that is hard to find is a needle in a haystack. And that's it. Another mystery idiom coming next week. Don't forget, we have our special series of lessons about grammar. A new lesson will be appearing on Wednesday. How's your grammar? A guide to the English language that will be coming on Wednesday. And we have some new lessons coming during October. It is the 1st of October tomorrow.
It is.
We will be back next Sunday. Just on the screen now, you will see the time. Live English every Sunday from 2 p.m. UK time. And that is it.
We're done.
We are done. I'm going to dust my hands because another live stream has come to an end. Thanks a lot, Steve, for your company.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan.
Thanks for your special Where in the World is Mr. Steve.
Where will I be next week?
That's the big question. Where in the world will Mr. Steve be next week?
All will be revealed.
All I can say, Steve, is stay away from the shops. We will see you later.
I'm going to make a tea cake and a cup of tea right now, Mr. Duncan.
That sounds like a good idea. Thank you very much to Blue Thunder, Irene, Belarusia, Runsack. Thank you to Vitas. Thanks a lot for your company. And that is it. We are completely out of time. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan.
You may say your goodbyes.
Bye-bye, everybody, and look forward to seeing you all next week.
And I will see you next week as well. This is Mr. Duncan in the birthplace of English saying thank you very much for watching me, saying hello to you live. A big hello once again to TS. It's very nice to see you on the live chat. Glad to see that you are okay. And of course, you know what's coming next. Yes, you do. Ta-ta for now.